In our struggle for power and control in this country, and I do blame all of the American people for this. That's why I say our. Good luck. Good luck in Congress. Good luck in the Senate. A lot of these folks, well, they did what Brian and Gabby were doing. You know that story, I'm sure. Did you forget about it already? They should still hold court, try to find out what actually happened. Because we don't actually know. And the American public eats that up. They love that stuff on the news. The news isn't interested. They don't have to be. Since 1997, they haven't had to be honest and just and fair reporters. But they can still say that. The reason for this is because it is entertainment. That is what that falls under today. Did you know that? Yes, you should. So the poor, they get screwed at every angle. Everything is expensive. You have to have credit. If other people don't pay their portion of the bills and you literally don't make enough to pay all the bills all the time, you're screwed. Your credit is the one that takes the hit. They're the ones that didn't pay. And everything is so expensive, you have to have a roommate. Right now, I get less than $800 a month to live on. It's not a lot. In a small town like this, I might be able to find a place in another town somewhere. I don't know. But on bad credit, there's no way. When you're falsely accused of crap in your entire life, everybody that you love and care about, all of it melts away because somebody who couldn't stay off of the drugs wanted to tell a little white lie just so she wouldn't get in any trouble. I mean, for me, that's absolutely devastating. But you don't want to hear that. You want to tell me that I'm the bad guy and pretend like I'm the bad guy when I was literally screaming for help. And I'm not the only one. The largest group of voting individuals in this country is parents. Parents have the largest voice in America. So they get to dictate law. They get to dictate all sorts of stuff, or at least they're supposed to be able to. But what if your belief is not on the ballot? What if it's always only someone else's and it's always someone upper or middle class? Or someone middle class who has been promoted to upper class? How many of us have had $1 million loan from daddy? Most of us finally had to try to get help, being told that we have to do it ourselves our entire lives. We should stop being idiots and take a look at what's really happening with our parents' generation. A lot of us, we had moms who were having sex with some jackass and working a full time job just because they're trying to keep a roof over our heads. She don't want to be with him. What she wants is a roof over her head. And I know a lot of women in that situation, a whole lot of women in that situation. And I feel bad for those women. And I have tried my best to help them out at every corner when they've needed it. But they're not the only ones I help. I don't select the gender of someone who needs help. I don't select the age of someone who needs help. If they need help, they need help. No problem. I hold doors open for people. I like it. It makes me feel good to be nice to people, for God's sake. Forgive me in this world for that. And most of those at the bottom are exactly like that. They're good, loving, and giving people. They're also scared little animals. They are scared. If you back a rabbit into a corner, it will bite you. If you back a squirrel into a corner, it will bite you. What is cuter than a squirrel and a bunny rabbit? I think mice are pretty cute. You back them into a corner, they'll bite you. You back a rat into a corner, it'll bite you. And I think rats are cute too, by the way. And that's where many of the poor are. You pretty well have to be a narcissist to be a police officer. Oh my God, he touched my chest. It's assault. Are you kidding me? Somebody accidentally touches you and it makes you okay to slam them down on the ground, beat them down, and or shoot them in the head? Sorry, but not okay. A lot of people are like, we need to disarm the American public. No, we need to disarm the police. If there is a need for a firearm, then it needs to be regulated. If they are on our dollar, we are literally paying out as taxpayers. Most of the poor, by the way, are working poor. They have jobs. They work when they can get it, where they can get it, and they work until they're exhausted, until their bodies are broken. In many places for minimum wage. And the whole world wants to pretend that because we spend lots of money on stuff to go blow shit up and kill other people like a bunch of fucking psychopaths, that we're all rich because of it. That we all have a 2-story mansion or a 3-story mansion or a fucking 5-car garage or a 2-car garage. I mean, I've heard all sorts of stories about what America's supposed to be. I don't see it. The land of the free, the home of the brave? How so? Everybody in the world is related. Everyone. We are all, literally all related. We are all brothers and sisters, regardless of our color, regardless of our gender. And here we are with so much internal strife and internal squabbles over trivial shit like skin color and what parts you were born with, what geographic location you were born in. And we decide based on those factors there how much a person is or is not a human being in this country. And then there's the fact that looks play an important part. And then we've got credit, which allows people to have a lot of things that are well above what they have earned. Sorry about the belching. Now, at this point, these Americans are in debt. If you need to hire a lawyer and you're in debt, you better hope that your credit holds on at least one of your cards and you start doing juggling and you start owing 5% more every month, even though you're not buying anything with it. Plastic is terrible shit. Cash money is how it should be. And the amount of money that we spend on literally killing each other in the United States, y'all got no idea. There are so many ways to kill people. I mean, if you have paid any attention at all And I'm going to type this over here. MMIW. MMIW. Missing and murdered indigenous women. Look that up. And then I want you to consider the reason that they go MMIW in specific, missing and murdered indigenous women, despite the fact that there are just as many Native American boys and men who are going, like, seriously. But because it says women in it instead of people, more people actually care. It is a psychological thing to try to get people to understand. And they have to ignore half of the victims. Not intentionally, but because people actually care about the women. They don't care about the men. The American public could give a shit less about Native American men. They only care about the Native American women because they're women. There are some people who are racist as all hell, but they go, you know what? It's still a woman. It's still a mother, or could be somebody's mother. She's still a human. It's just the guys I don't like. And I don't get that. I don't choose whether or not I like somebody based on what location they came from or what location their ancestors came from. Why does that matter? Literally, why does that matter? You are who you are, okay? You are not who your dad was. You are not who your granddad was. You are not who your mother was. You are not who your grandmother was. You are who you are. You can make your own choices and your own decisions. And that's a great and mighty power. But when do you have to stop and say, hey, what I've been told and what I've been promised and all this rhetoric that I've heard since I was a little kid, it's not true. Why is it not true? We get told what the rest of the world thinks of us too. You know, I tend to agree with the rest of the world. Ain't no need to be a jackhole to fucking everybody. The United States likes to push its muscle around and say, hey, Great Britain, Portugal, Spain, you should give us some troops to go to Iraq with. Why? We haven't done too good. Meanwhile, the American people are under siege, and we have these armed goons called law enforcement, and we have immoral laws. We do pay a lot in taxes, and I get that there are a lot of other countries where people pay more in taxes or a higher percentage of their income. Our inflation is getting out of control. Do we really need this military? If you had a choice between growing some food for some foreign people or blowing them up, which one is easier for you resource wise? The food. Holy shit, it's the food. The United States has enough land. They could literally feed the entire world many times over. China could do it as well. And that's with the land that we're already using for farming. And that's without over farming. We can use natural grains to do these things. I know that a lot of the world has said, hey, we don't want any American grain because it's tainted. We've messed with the genetics of it. Maybe for the better in the long run, maybe not. I don't know. But also that depends on for who. Now in the United States, we got lots of pretty places to go. I love the way that the United States looks. in most places. Billings, Montana is nasty as fuck. Billings, Montana is literally the nastiest city I've been to. And that's even if you consider the fact that they built the whole city inside of the plateau. Like, there's plateaus all around it, but they built it in the valleys in between. It's still ugly as fuck. Oh my God, it's ugly. But guess what? It's a place to live. Hardin, Montana is just south of Billings. There are not a lot of people in that area. The number of Native Americans who have gone missing from there, it's horrible. When Gabby Petito and all of that happened, and all of America is caring about this white girl, they found a lot of other bodies. A lot of them. How difficult would it be for you to go, you know what, I'm sick of this shit. We need to go out and find some dead people. We need to go to these places where it's seeming like a logical place where somebody would try to dump a body. These popular places, obviously, that we have found a bunch of those bodies. Go to those places and search everywhere. Find these people and get them home. But then there's the cost of all of this. You know what? Compared to our military, it ain't jack shit. We also have the ability to teach other countries how to do horticulture, and most of them already know how to do it. They're having to deal with droughts and famines. Sometimes flooding that wipes out your crops. Sometimes, like here in Nebraska, hail can ruin it. Sometimes you have a July frost that'll actually kill a lot of the different plants that they grow around here for agriculture. Now, agriculture, for the most part, is inherited wealth. Corporations, as well as families, are both systems of inherited wealth. The next person down the line gets everything. I mean, everything. So basically, your goal as one of these tycoons who wants power is to possess as much as possible, even if it means that nobody else gets anything. And then you continually tell these people, you owe us, you owe us, you owe us. We're going to milk you for every last drop, and you have no representation anywhere. A bunch of upper middle class white dudes, what do they know about being poor? Well, some of them know a lot, and a lot of them don't. I know a few black folks who are rich. Rich compared to Michael Jordan? Probably not. Rich compared to a steel worker? For sure. If your parents are making enough money that they're able to rent you an apartment in one of the most expensive places in Colorado, and they live in Boulder, Colorado, so I mean they're close by, and you go to your mommy and daddy's every night for dinner, you talk like you're tough everywhere else, but then you go into your mother's house and you're in your mother's kitchen and you use R's in your sentences all of a sudden. You speak properly because if you don't, your mom's going to smack the taste out of your mouth. You don't talk gangster in her house. Now, I've gone off on the Native American topic for a while, haven't I? Let's also look at the incarceration rate among black people. One thing that a lot of people like to leave out is population size and population size in a given area. If you're up in the Sandhills, people like to take it out on Native Americans. East Coast or West Coast, or anywhere around Denver or Omaha, any major city in here, matter of fact, it's usually black people when it is racial profiling. A lot of the time, it's not. Many times, our police officers are arresting people who actually committed crimes, like bad crimes, not horrible, horrible things like using a blanket on city property when it's freezing out. Yeah, in Boulder, Colorado, it's a no camping law. When I lived there, it got a lot of people killed. A lot of those Native Americans are being killed what's called exposure to the elements. If you're in Arizona, you drive that Native American, and I should say Native American person, but I'm going to say Native American girl so you understand this is happening to girls too. All right. This is something that because it happens to girls, you guys are more likely to listen at least a little bit. In Arizona, they take them out in the middle of the desert, drop them off with no water, and leave. And then they die. This doesn't just happen to Native Americans, which is why most of you need to pay attention here. This happens to white people all the time. This happens to black people all the time. When they're homeless people, nobody cares. There was some homeless people that, um, well, they met a man, and that man wanted to buy some marijuana, and, well, they ended up killing him. They killed that man who came down to Colorado just wanting a pound of weed. That's all he wanted. He didn't want to kill anybody. He didn't want to hurt anybody. He didn't want to start no trouble. He just wanted to smoke some pot. And he ended up dead. And they dumped his body off in Wyoming. You guys don't understand the I-90 interchange. You know, the first thing they need to do is get some of those cadaver dogs. And I really hate to say that because that's traumatic for those dogs. It's also traumatic for the people that got to go find those carcasses. There ain't much left. But they need to go down the side of the highways and a lot of those smaller roads too. There are probably people who were buried by the snow in the wintertime. And with all the stuff blowing around all the time, a lot of that snow ends up pretty dirty. Some of those things that look like clothes just hanging out on the side of the road. Those could possibly be human beings. You need to stop. If you are in a patrol vehicle, especially if you are a police officer, that could be human remains of someone who has been looking for their loved one for years. A lot of people say, well, look at all this attention that was given to Gabby Petito because she was a pretty white girl. You're absolutely right about that. But there are a lot of pretty white girls who get no attention whatsoever or just very little. Selena Not Afraid, when she disappeared, I'd never seen them put as much work into trying to find a human being as far as the government goes with Native Americans. Of course, I made a call to the FBI and I made a call to the local sheriff's department. I said, hey, you know what, with this Selena Not Afraid stuff going on, I made a video like 10 months earlier called The Missing Women of Hardin, Montana. And when Selena Not Afraid disappeared, a lot of people were looking at that and going, oh my God, this dude spoke out. He's, speaking up for us. Thank goodness. So about 14,000 views were made on that, all in just a matter of days. But then there was a few people who wanted to start spreading the same rumors that, well, result in the loss of human life, result in innocent people being murdered, result in people who did not do those things being taken out into either the desert with no water, or in the case of Hardin, Montana, they take him out in a blizzard with no jacket and sometimes no shoes. Colorado winters are pretty bad, especially up in the mountains. Wyoming winters are worse, especially up in the mountains. Montana winters, well, as you can imagine, are worse than both combined. Montana winters can be absolutely fucking brutal. And when you're talking about Hardin, Montana, that may be the southeast corner of Montana, but there are quite a few little towns like Buffalo that are pretty close to Montana, actually, all along there. And sure, they're not a lot population wise compared to, well, even Sydney, Nebraska with 20,000. A lot of those so called cities up there, they're pretty small. Some of them are all right size, but most of them are just small towns like Chapel, Nebraska. And a lot of these people are living paycheck to paycheck. They're also living inheritance to inheritance. They're given what they need to have a good start. Many people in this town, for example, the year that I graduated high school, I did not graduate from Chapel High School, but I did graduate. I think the least amount of money that any of these kids that went to school got was like $5,000. I'm going, $5,000? Shit, between graduating high school and my birthday, I got a grand total of a pack of M&Ms. Now, for a lot of people, they might feel lucky to have a packet of M&Ms. You know, there are many years where I've had to be happy with nothing. And I try to explain that not to complain, because that's absolutely not what that's about. It's about trying to educate you that there are people who have to live in horrible conditions. There are people here in the United States that don't have power, that don't have running water, that don't have electricity. And telling me, well, they have that over in Africa, they have that over in this place or that place. There's lots of places where they don't have those things. Well, you have to have access to water, first of all. But also, the point of it is if people are living in those conditions, no, they don't have a big mansion with a 5 car garage or even a 2 car garage. They're lucky if they own a car to stay in. And once you're homeless, you are everyone's favorite victim. Everyone knows that they can take it out on the homeless. So America is a whole bunch of assholes training their victims to take over. Here's the thing, it's that I am certain 500,000 homeless people could take this country back quick, fast, and in a hurry, especially when 1 in 8 people on the streets is a former soldier of the United States. 1 in 10 is a combat veteran. I'm against soldiers, but I am not against veterans, and there is a reason for that. When you've been there and you've seen it, you're different. Some people endure that trauma and see it at a young and early age, and some people don't encounter it until they go to war. But look at where the guys that we have in uniform are stationed. Are they protecting our borders or are they prepped for invasion literally worldwide? Everyone hates us for a reason, and we've got troops literally close enough to bomb or strike anyone that we want. We could start a war at any point in time with anybody over anything. And we try to bully the world into doing what we want, right? Is it really what we want? Or is it what we are told, taught, and trained that we want? Do we, as human beings, really want to see all the Muslims slaughtered like animals? I don't. But how can we expect these things to be any different with our soldiers in foreign countries when things are as horrible as they are between the poor and law enforcement in this country, between the poor and the laws that are made in this country? This is a feudal system, folks. When we think about knights and we think about chivalry, we think about opening the fucking door. Are you fucking shitting me? It's all about killing. Now, maybe there's something on here about all of that. So you guys can read what chivalry actually is. Chivalry original rules. Actually, it's got a PDF. So with a PDF, I can actually print it off and read it. All right. The Knight's Code of Chivalry. The knight's code of chivalry is described in the Song of Roland. 1. To fear God and maintain his church. 2. To serve the liege lord in valor and faith. 3. To protect the weak and defenseless. 4. To give succor to widows and orphans. 5. To refrain from wanton giving of offense. 6. To live by honor and for glory. 7. To despise pecuniary reward. Number 8. To fight for the welfare of all. 9. To obey those placed in authority. Number 10. To guard the honor of fellow knights. Number 11. To eschew unfairness, meanness, and deceit. They're knights. They are already set above the rest of us because, well, their station. Knights were often sold back to their families or sometimes back to the army that had just lost or even won. Strange, isn't it? But the poor folks were generally just slaughtered. I mean, you really didn't want to become property in that particular situation if you were poor. It hasn't changed. If you're poor, they lock you up, they keep you there. You don't matter. A lot of our veterans are getting a lot of benefits, and that's great. Getting a new titanium and special graphite leg, badass. But there's a lot more that aren't, and they're out on the streets. We throw away our entire society and then we just throw a bunch of crap at them that is absolutely unnecessary. Many countries in the world are full of alcoholics. But, well, alcoholics the world over make shit suck. The more depressed somebody is, the more shitty an alcoholic they generally are. Here in America, it flows like water. With that stuff that happened to George Floyd, officers did the same thing to me. It's not okay. These were criminal acts that were committed against me. But it happens to many people. Anybody in the United States, we say, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? But then they prevent you from telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. They prevent you from showing evidence. They prevent you from anything resembling a defense. If you're a poor single mother, a public pretender might try to defend you. Might. Even if she knows outright that you're guilty. Why? Because you're a mother. You're getting special privileges immediately. Just like the special privileges of not going to jail when you were beating the hell out of your boyfriend. Just like you got the special privilege of getting out of that ticket that you really should have had. Where you get the benefit of the doubt in so many situations. Now, there's this stuff here. I should probably finish it. It says to eschew unfairness, meanness, and deceit, to keep faith at all times, to speak the truth, to preserve to the end in any enterprise begun, to respect the honor of women, never to refuse a challenge from an equal. An equal. Are not we all equal? Who is to decide who is or who isn't? And by what challenge are we judging? And the last one is never to turn the back upon a foe. Basically means don't run away. Now, in reality, are knights like that? Were they like that? No, they weren't. They really, really, really weren't. And the main one here for that, although most of them, they're about who owns who and who you're allowed to kill. That's what most of that is about. And of course, God. Yes, we have to put that in there in this with all of the killing and the property owning of human beings. When a human being does not have any land of their own to live on, how can you expect them to own or keep anything, especially when they are constantly paying out? If you have an income of zero and your government is expecting 35 bucks a month from you, you're probably not going to pay that 35 bucks. And in your country, you might get in a lot of trouble for that. Here in the United States, it's more like, hey, we want you to pay us 600, 700 easily. If you get busted sleeping underneath a bridge, you're fucking screwed. You got to pay out a lot of money. When people talk about how rich we are because of how many dollars that we get, and then they look at what we get for our dollar and they're like, oh my God, it's expensive. The American dollar is not worth that much. So if it's not worth as much there, why is it worth so much here? And then we devalue our own currency in other countries by being jackasses here. Ah. Now we piss off a lot of people. I remember being on the bus in Denver on the 16th Street Mall. And this white girl got on the bus. And as soon as she started talking, first of all, she was talking Valley. Oh my God. Please don't talk Valley to me. She wasn't talking to me, though. She was complaining on the phone about white girl shit that nobody in their right mind wants to hear. Stuff that, like, is that seriously the stuff that you're going to whine about? If you're that well off, why would you get on a public transit bus where people, many of them, are just lucky to have enough to get on the bus? And you're going to get on there and get on your phone and complain about white girl shit. Holy fuck, you watch the Kardashians too much. I've never seen an episode of the Kardashians. Do you know why? Because it was traumatic enough seeing the fucking commercials. We objectify and sexify everything. Our news and news media since 1997 has literally been an entertainment industry. There's no truth or justice in America to be had. There is only the American dollar, and it ain't worth shit. Now we want to bail out? No, it's time to start over. There are a lot of people who are going to go, this is my chance to take out my vengeance on this person and that person, and so on and so forth, if anything ever happens anywhere close to that. So I'm sure that there are people that would probably, in that scenario, want to kill me. But that's where rapid stabilization is important. Now, when it comes to fighting this war, and it is war, we need to not take the example of BLM or the KKK. We need to study them as examples of what not to do, just like the Rodney King riots, examples of what not to do. When you are fighting a war, you do not want to destroy your own infrastructure. There are three ways to fight a war. Now, the first one, the most popular, is by killing people. Now, obviously, a combination of the three is the best, but that's as far as your assurance of victory. But the first one is you pick up your M16s and you go about your bloody business. It's nasty and it's wrong, and it gets innocent people killed all the time. Friendly fire isn't just against soldiers. There are so many innocent civilians that are no longer here because of war. Most of those people just want to survive. Okay, that's all they're interested in. I'm making sure I have my food and my water. Here in America, if you get busted digging an illegal well, you're going to need to come up with $10,000 to dig an illegal well. I get $9,800 a year disability. People who are earning $40,000 a year in America are struggling to make it with two to three people in the family bringing in money.